Democratic Party, a bunch of feckless cowards. Joy Reid called them out in a remarkable way. Here it is.
I've been a Democrat since I was old enough to vote, but I'm barely hanging on, honestly. Mm-hmm. Because at this point, the party is not bigger than the future of my kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I have 3 children. I have, a daughter and 2 sons that have to live in this country as Black people. And fascism don't work for me, Yeah. And I'm not willing to cede the country to Trumpism and MAGA simply because I'm clinging to this party. So people getting all mad at Karine Jean-Pierre for saying but I'm not mad at that, because I'm like, at this point, it isn't, who cares what the party label is? Give me an effective fighter. If Jasmine Crockett is the most effective fighter, give me Jasmine Crockett. Mm-hmm. And I really don't care what you have to move around or who you have to disappoint in order to give me her. Just give me her, because we need a leader.
That's right. We'll get into some more detail about some of that proclamation. Now, New York City, mayoral primary. You had the Democratic primary yesterday. They had something to say. Here it is.
This reminded me of the AOC versus Joe Crowley election, where there was this establishment sacred cow who thought that because of his name and because of his pockets, he could walk into it. And there was a young upstart who put a lot of leather and a lot of footwork and boots on the ground and did it.
Say this: the people who hate this result the most are the Democratic establishment. We have seen poll after poll after poll showing Democratic voters fed up with their leaders in Washington, fed up with their leaders in government. And all of a sudden, Andrew Cuomo, who 5 years ago was leading those COVID, press conferences, was this guy who was held up in such high esteem. And now all of a sudden, the best he can do is what,
62%?
There's a shift that's happening. That shift is not simply happening inside of a small group of individuals connected to one political party. The shift is happening in individuals connected throughout the spectrum. Put up the picture full mass. Going to Reuters. A Reuters Ipsos poll released last week found that 62% of self-identified Democrats said that the party should replace Democrats with new leaders, with only 24% disagreeing with that statement. A plurality of respondents at 49% said they were simply unsatisfied with current leadership. Perhaps voters would be more satisfied with this man leading the charge. Here it is.
I rise today because our country is nearing a moment of decision. I rise because we are at the intersection of democracy and autocracy. I rise to announce that at this moment in time, I have filed HRES 537. HRES 537 is a privileged resolution. HRES 537 has been filed because I believe that the President of the United States has committed an impeachable act.
This is an impeachment resolution. Put up the picture full mass. I will explain. It is actually led by Representative Al Green. Dozens of House Democrats, including AOC, voted on Tuesday in favor of beginning an impeachment inquiry into Trump's strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend, a move which numerous Democrats said was unconstitutional. However, the bulk of the House Democratic caucus voted down an effort to launch impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump on Tuesday, joining a unified House GOP. I'm about to get into that in just a damn moment. You don't have to say it's unconstitutional. Constitution says it's unconstitutional. There's no approval from Congress. Congress has the authority to declare the articles of war. Now, Trump would say, oh, this is not a declaration of war here. There's no declaration at all. It's just a bombing, which is insane. The only entity, the only governmental entity in the United States that has the right to do this is the United States Congress. Constitution is quite clear. Put them up full mass. Hakeem Jeffries, Jim Clyburn, Nancy Pelosi were among, and hear me clearly when I say this, and I know I get your emails and your tags on social media. I'm saying that you can tell them I said it. Tell their mamas I said what I'm saying. Hakeem Jeffries, Jim Clyburn, and Nancy Pelosi were among the feckless 128 Democrats who joined Republicans in voting to table the articles of impeachment inquiry, while only 79 Democrats supported the effort. House Democrats privately vented their fury Tuesday about what they said is a, quote, premature and, quote, unhelpful vote on impeaching President Trump for his strikes on Iran. Quote, a completely unserious and selfish move, one House Democrat told Axios, on the conditions of anonymity to speak candidly about a colleague. Another House Democrat said there is, quote, a lot of anger about the vote, adding, quote, I think you heard it from leadership today, they're frustrated. Quote, most people think it's unhelpful. A third House Democrat told Axios. Many Democrats groaned that the vote forces them to choose between grassroots activists clamoring for impeachment and the broader, more moderate electorate. Quote, it puts people in a difficult situation. A fourth House Democrat told Axios. A fifth fumed. Quote, there are a lot of other things we should be focused on right now, end quote. The sixth House Democrat said they were, quote, not even clear the courts would uphold the impeachment, noting that the debate over constitutional war powers is fiercely contested. This kind of motion is premature. I just don't think it's ripe, said a seventh. Others said it was easy for them to vote with green to force an impeachment vote. Quote, my constituents have been calling for articles of impeachment knowing we don't have the votes to pass them, said Representative Emily Randall, Democrat, Washington, adding that, quote, part of our job is to put things on the record. And that's correct. The president should be impeached, according to another. Now, should he be impeached? Of course. Of course he should be impeached. You have more impeachable offenses in this term of Trump within the first few months than really you had in the first term of Trump. These things are more defined. And you don't have to stop with the Iranian conflict. You can start prior to that with how this individual has attempted to dismantle governmental agencies, not giving people due process, eliminating basically the Department of Education with a patsy, rather than engage in the actual work of upholding the Constitution, which is part of his job. He took an oath to do so. You have a lot of meat on this bone if you simply pay attention. All right, Jackson, thoughts here.
Well, I think that one of the ultimate blue linings of the times that we're in is that in a lot of the ways, the establishment has become irrelevant. It's nice that, people like Andrew Cuomo and Nancy Pelosi, all these people may have worries and concerns that we can't go too far to the left. But what we know is that they've been wrong over and over and over again. And it's less about their genuine concern for the public and more about just their comfort in the positions that they're in. And one of the things that I point out all the time is how old most of these people are. So they're not even able physically to run very much more. But I think that a huge thing, obviously, we got Zohran Mamdani up in NYC who just wiped the floor with Andrew Cuomo. And you might think that that's typically unlikely to happen, but at the end of the day, all that really happened is people showed up to the polls. Yeah. Yes, Zoran ran a very good campaign, and it is true that sometimes we do need exceptional individuals to lead movements. But I think what's more important is the realization that, you know, we can't always count on those exceptional individuals. Those types of people don't really come around very often, but we can always count on ourselves to come together and build community and be more of a part of our neighbors' lives right in our backyards. Because, as you know, we talk about this all the time on this show, how big of a difference that really makes. Because at the end of the day, you know, despite the fact that the establishment has its issues and there's so much blame to go around at the Democratic Party, at the end of the day, we're the ones who put them in office. And I think that we forget that too often. And it's real easy to just blame, you know, the higher ups. It's easy to blame things like COVID. You know what I'm saying? Like a company I started in 2018 that did very well. It's easy to be like, oh, well, COVID knocked that out. But nah, we made mistakes too. You know, so I think that if the just as an example of really, really taking responsibility for our civic duty and our public service, because if a 33-year-old Muslim can be the mayor of NYC, if Donald Trump can be president of the United States, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a representative in the federal government. Like, nah, man, we really can make anything happen. And I think it's incumbent upon us to realize that and move forward in that way.
Brother, I echo your point, agree with it wholeheartedly. And that's the reason why powers that be would like us to believe that we don't have the power to be. Because once we realize that phenomena, we're able to do the unbelievable. You always have the power. You are correct there, brother.